Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Hi, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
So it's been a minute since we recorded together, and we've been sitting here for I can't tell you how long trying to get our act together.
Yeah, we have fully forgotten what to do, and it's only been like 2 months?
It's been a minute.
Yeah.
So we apologize if we're sitting here fumfering for things. Like if you're on YouTube and you see me looking around,
I might be a little rusty at things here, but hey, we're humans, we're good.
Yeah, but we have really good topics for today. So we're going to start with our first one soon, but first Allison has to shout out. You know, one of the benefits of not recording for a minute is that we have new locations to shout out.
Yay! And we're excited because we are shouting out Bulgaria today, and we have never shouted them out ever before. So yay, thank you. And to the people of California, specifically the people in Fremont.
Hey, people. Yay. Thanks for being our preschool peeps. Please tell your friends and neighbors and coworkers and maybe your boss to come on over and listen to the podcast. So today's episode, I'm going to start with a little story, I think.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
All right, this topic. I sometimes go and do credential observations. So I get to see a lot of different places and people and things, which is really awesome. And I was doing a credential observation not too long ago. And if you are listening and you're thinking, wait, she came and did mine. It's not you. Okay. It's not you.
Yeah.
I was observing in a classroom and the children wanted to do something, which I loved to see that as an observer because they felt free to say, we want to do this during free play.
That's cool.
They went to one of the adults and said, we want to do this. And it wasn't something that the adult originally had offered as a suggestion. And the adult was sort of like, oh, okay, sure. Puts a big smile on. Excuse me. Puts a big smile on, which didn't look real to me or the children. Right. And said, okay, great. I'll just sit with you and we'll do that together. That's a great idea, with a gritting smile.
It's reminding me of how I am when people ask me to go do something socially, like adults, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah,
cool,
it's like that.
I'll be there at noon.
It was very much like that.
Thanks for inviting me. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, all right, I guess, it's free play and we're being observed, and technically I'm supposed to let you do what you want, and I didn't suggest that, but all right, I guess we're going to do that.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, I noticed it.
Yeah.
And it was minorly entertaining for me watching this person just sort of squirm. And it wasn't even the person, honestly, it wasn't the person I was there to observe. It was the other person in the room. Yeah. And just, I was just like, wow, that person's really squirming. And if I noticed the squirming, certainly the children noticed the squirming. So here's what happened. So this person's sort of squirming and going, yeah, sure. Okay, we could do that instead. Puts on a big smile, gets whatever the children need, bring it over. And now the children sort of half-heartedly put their hands in this bin, use something for a minute, and they leave. They go to do something else. And I was like, message received.
Yeah. Yeah. He totally understood. That student really was like, okay, she don't want to be here. I don't want to be here either.
Yeah. I felt like I wasn't the only one who got the picture of what was happening here. Yeah. And I have to say that the child, who was like, I don't know, maybe 3.5, was very polite.
Yeah.
Right? Waited for the objects, picked up 1 or 2 out of the bin, put them back, and walked away. And I was like, yeah. And had the child not been so enthusiastic about it before, I would have thought, oh, maybe he just changed his mind. But I think there was an influence. Yeah. And we're human.
Yes.
Right? We're human. And sometimes the things we do and don't want to do are just going to show up through our nonverbal communication. Yeah. I think no matter how, as an early educator, we get this voice, right? Where we go, okay, great. That's a great idea.
What a good idea.
But your gestures and your facial expressions and your body language may not be saying that. And I don't even know that that's within your control.
I agree. I don't think it necessarily is in your control. That's why, before we started this, I said, I don't really know what tips to give because I don't think we can really hide it all the time. We're human beings, right? So,
you can't,
it's hard to fake all the time. Like, it's hard to be
It
on
is.
and fake all day, every day about every single thing, right? So, like, and I don't think it's human nature to be able to be like that. Like, I don't think it's possible.
I also think of, it kind of reminds me of
Yeah.
myself with things I just don't enjoy. Like, let's say, for example, mathematics.
Yes.
Just as
Cindy has talked a lot about how she does not like mathematics.
just as an example, you know, we go to sit down to do a mathematics activity that I have planned. Okay,
Right,
I have
so you
this.
should be okay with it.
I have this in my lesson plans. I have planned this.
Right, so you're prepared for it.
But I'm pretty sure that my level of enthusiasm, passion, and engagement is not the same as when I'm doing something that is more within my comfort zone.
Right. And I think they're going to sense that, right? Like, I'm a big science person, so when I teach science, I'm enthusiastic, I am passionate about it. And then you're going to go over to math, which I'm not really that good at. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it's in the lesson, cool, because I have to have it in my lesson.
Yeah,
But
sure you do.
Is the same passion going to be there for it? No. And the kids might say, hey, like when she was teaching us about seeds and plants, she was like all into it. And now look. So it might not even be something like, I don't mean to poo-poo the whole mathematics, but I kind of...
And yet...
and yet I am, but only maybe because they're comparing with like, but when she read the book, she was cool. You know, and now she's like, you know, I think they're going to sense it. But at the same time, I'm really bad at math.
I know. At the same time, it's not something where my passion lies.
I think it's not even just passion. It's like, I know I'm not good at it. So, but there's kids in my class who are incredibly good at it.
Yeah.
So then, like, how do you even... I can't fake being good at it. Okay.
There are other situations where our humanity also can damper the spirits of children. And when I think about the math, though, going back to that for a second.
Yeah.
So just because math wasn't so good to me, or I wasn't so good to math,
Right.
doesn't mean that that's not going to be... that's going to be the same for the children. And
Right.
I don't want the children to get the message that math is not a good subject.
Right.
So, you know, but there are other ways when our preferences shine through.
Right. Right.
Even though we try so hard
We try
to not have that happen. Again, as an observer, I can tell you that I see it.
You notice it.
I
Yeah.
do. I see it when this is not something.
Yeah.
You're trying, you're putting a good face on it. You're acting as if, as it says
Yeah.
in the title of this episode, you're acting as if. But part of, and so it's human to not be able to totally communicate love of it or passion for it. It's also human to pick up those signals and think, oh, maybe this isn't something we would want to do.
Right.
And these are all silent messages. Like, I'm not saying anyone's sitting around going, listen, children, I really dislike math, but we're required to do it because it's in our standards. So come on over.
Come on over.
Right? Nobody's doing that.
I think it's also in some of the events that might be planned at
Yes.
school. Like for me, water day. I hate water
I hated
day.
water day.
I hate it with a passion. I hate water day. And here I am, and I have to be enthusiastic about water day when I have so many things against it. But I have to just put on a happy face and be like, hey, we're going to have fun today, guys. We're going to go in the sprinkler. We're going to change a million outfits or whatever. Because you have to, right? Like, you can't be like, I'm not going to send my class outside because I hate water day. You know, if only I could, I would. But I feel like if I sit there and be like, water day, guys, it's water day tomorrow. Like the kids are not going to be, then they're not going to do it, right? They're not, and we should be like at least letting them try it out because maybe they'll love it and great, they'll grow up loving it. I will never love it, but I have to be like giving them that opportunity to try to enjoy it. You know?
I truly disliked having to sunscreen all the children. There's another one. Too.
There's another thing.
It is really, first of all, in the state we're in, you're required to wear gloves when you sunscreen children.
Yes. And in some, like I worked in, I don't know if it's in this state or was it was another state, you had to change gloves between each child.
This state. You have to change between every child because
every child.
There are ingredients that some children could be allergic to.
Yeah.
So you have to re-glove between every child. You have to have the gloves on. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to put sunscreen on with gloves on your hands, but it's nearly impossible, to rub this stuff in. And so it's the bane of every teacher's existence in our state and probably others.
Yeah.
And yet we have to do it because we know it's the right and safe thing to do. And it protects the children, and no one wants to send a crispy child home. So we're just going to do the sunscreen. I wonder if the silent message to the children was, sunscreen is hateful.
Yes.
When really, sunscreen is there to protect me and keep me healthy.
But I also feel like while I'm doing sunscreen, I'm like, we're putting this on to protect your skin.
Or the...
But that's the whole thing of like, thanks for inviting me. You know, like, we're doing this because we want to be healthy. And, you know, but am I saying it in an enthusiastic way?
Or the food. How about food? Food that you don't like the smell of, or you don't like the look of. And,
yes,
and finally,
yes.
on this list of things that we try to put a happy face on but struggle with, children's behavior. There are some children who exhibit behavior that challenge us, and that challenge shows on your face, in your interactions, in what you're willing and not willing to do with these children.
Right.
So now the question, of course, is, we're saying it's very human that you have nonverbal reactions that you don't even know about or can't control. So what do? I think one thing I need to do is reflect on when are the times and events and people and possibilities that I might be communicating in a nonverbal way, that this is something other than good for you, pleasurable, something we believe you can do, something you may be very capable of, something that is good for your health, something that is good for your development. Like, when are we actually communicating the opposite? And I think that takes some self-reflection. You know, it takes the ability to say something to yourself like, I don't know that I always react to this child's behavior well, but you can't just sit on that. You have to think, so what am I going to do? Right? What am I going to do? And I think one of the things I would do is speak with the team members in my classroom and say, listen, I know that I may not be doing the best communication or the best that could possibly be done for this child. So when this happens, I will cover you if you cover me, right?
That's good, having good teamwork.
I think it also matters to sit with the people you work with. And I'm assuming you have more than one person in the room right now. If you don't, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think to sit with the other people in the room and say something like, math was always difficult for me. How do you feel about math? Maybe instead of rotating these different content area activities, if you're okay with math, you should always do math. You should
always handle the math.
And then I'll go around during free playtime and add math knowledge to what they're doing. But to have the concentrated effort maybe should be you. Or the planned effort, not concentrated effort. To have the activity planned for small group time, for example, maybe it should be you. In an interesting survey that I do sometimes, and it has to do with behavior, but I think it applies to this too. I do this survey during a professional development session every time, and every time it works out the same way. So there are classroom strategies for addressing things that I put in a poll. Okay? And I say to the people, first, what do you think you do the most in these strategies? And they vote. And then I say, what do you think you do the least? And you know the one that always wins that poll? Get on the same page with the people working in my classroom. It always is the winner.
I'm telling you, I feel like, this is me speaking for me, interacting with adults is way harder for me than interacting with children.
There you go.
So like if I have to go up to, and it takes being like good, having a good relationship with your assistant. Like I now have an assistant that she and I were friends outside of work. So like, hey, I could just tell her.
That's great.
I just talk to her. But the one like other aides that I've had in the past, maybe I wouldn't. And I wouldn't want to feel like I'm bossing them around, right? I think is what I would, but something like, okay, I'll just handle that all on my own. You know, instead of having this friction or asking or like, when really you should come into this and say, hey, my strength is science. My strength is reading and literacy. What are your strengths? What do you like to do with the children? How can we incorporate your strengths into the lessons? You know, like How can we incorporate your preferences into small groups? Would you prefer to do the math rather than the science? Or would you prefer to do the writing and the literacy rather than this? And see, because your person might love doing the stuff that you hate. Okay? And then it's a good balance.
You know what occurs to me, though? Sometimes you have the same strengths as the other person in the room.
I know, and that's what's hard.
And that's hard. And, sometimes we'll say... Maybe we take turns, but sometimes... we will go, and I know because I ran a program. Yeah. Sometimes people will come to me and say, like, next year, can I have a different assistant? And it's usually because of personality conflict. Yeah,
usually.
Right?
Yeah.
It's usually we're not getting along, or we don't see this sort of thing eye to eye. Another reason to go and say, can I work with somebody else next year, is because you have the same exact strengths in the same exact areas where you're not as strong. Right. That doesn't help the children to have the same exact strengths.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So, folks, that's another reason to go and say, I think we need to mix up the talent pool here a little bit. We have the same strengths, and I don't know that serves the children.
Right.
You will enjoy it, though, if you have the same strengths as someone else, because you feel like you have a lot in common then. Yes. And so we tend to feel very comfortable with those people and enjoy it. Right. So I'm going to submit to you, you can become comfortable with anyone if you would just sit and talk to each other, which people tell me they don't do. And I've said to people in my professional development sessions, why does collaborating with the other person always come up with, that's what I do the least? And people just look uncomfortable when I ask them that question because they know they need to be doing it.
Right, but I don't think people admit, like, I'll readily admit, like, I am an introverted person that doesn't really interact with adults very well. Okay, like,
we get along.
Yeah, because
you can get along
because we're the same.
All right.
Okay, but I also think, like, when you're in the work situation, it's like uncomfortable to begin with sometimes, right? Like, you're kind of like, you don't have a choice of your age. You're shoved in this room. You're like, all right, I gotta get the best out of this.
Yeah, it's true.
And if you don't, you know what I mean? And if you don't communicate well with each other, then that's rough from the very beginning, and it's hard to get back, right? Like, if you started off the year like that, I think sometimes it's hard to go in the middle, like, hey, I know we haven't really been communicating, but let's start now. Like, it's hard. It's hard. Being an adult is hard.
You have to start. And I encourage you all, when the school year starts, to sit down and say, before the school year starts, let's not only set up this room, but let's set up our strategy for things, right? Yeah. Let's sit and talk about how we feel. What are your strengths? What do you think are not your strengths? What sort of things are triggers for you in a classroom? What sort of things are triggers for me in a classroom?
I think that's important to talk about.
Yeah,
that nobody talks about, and sometimes you don't realize what your triggers are until they happen. I get it, but then once you realize it, you need to go to the other person and be like, "That really set me off." So but it didn't seem to set you off. Can you handle that when that happens?
I think it's a worthy conversation
when this happens, because that pushes your buttons, kind of thing, and that's good, because then it's less frustrating for the child, and the child's going to learn more if they're with somebody who can handle that situation.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think that's happening enough.
So let's say you work alone in a classroom.
Yeah.
Now what? Now you can't help but communicate to the children, maybe I'm passionate about this and not so passionate about that. I think at a certain age of children, by the time you're alone in a group of children, they're at least pre-K, don't you think?
Yeah.
At least.
4 or 5. Maybe
4 or
kindergarten.
5. Yeah, maybe kindergarten.
Yeah.
And I think that there are certain conversations we can have with children at that age that help them to understand human nature.
Yeah.
Things like, we all have things we like and we all have things we don't like. Let's sit and talk about it.
Yeah.
And just because you don't like this doesn't mean he has to not like it.
Yeah.
I think we can have those conversations, I
have those conversations with 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, just because you like this movie doesn't mean she has to like this movie, but you guys can still be friends. I tell them that all the time. But I think it's a very simplified way. But then once you're in kindergarten, you can even talk about it.
By the time they're in kindergarten, you can say, I'm really glad you love doing this math.
Yeah.
It was something that I struggled with when I was young, and I love that you love it.
Yeah.
I think we have to acknowledge when we see them being passionate, and this is true no matter how many people you work with.
Right.
When we see they have a passion for something, we have to acknowledge it and tell them how much we appreciate their passion for it, so that they know, even if I don't like it, or I'm communicating that non-verbally somehow, I treasure the fact that you like it.
Yeah.
I think that has to be communicated. There's also a very important anti-bias conversation that needs to happen in classrooms, which is we are simultaneously similar and different.
Yes.
So it can be we all like going to the movies, but we like different movies,
things.
right?
Yeah.
We all enjoy free playtime in school, or you both enjoy free playtime, but you enjoy playing with different things, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So I think that we are similar and different at the same time conversation is very important, because they'll understand, oh, I don't have to agree.
Right. You don't have to agree.
I don't have to agree.
You just need to be respectful.
Right.
Or kind.
Right.
Right? You still have to cordially work with each other, even though you might want to use magnetiles differently. You could still use them together. You know, like...
So we are going to collaborate with colleagues to see where are your strengths and weaknesses, what are your triggers, what are mine, when should we cover what with each other, with the children. We're going to communicate with the children that we all have similarities and differences at the same time. We can like the same general thing, like being in school, but we like different things when we're in school. So that they learn you don't have to like and dislike the same things as any other human being.
Right.
And we're going to reflect, and we're going to think, how did that go? What messages are they receiving from me? How did I behave? Not only them.
Yeah.
How did I behave? Because I'm human and I have behaviors too.
Yeah.
All right. I think that pretty much does it.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at YouTube, if you're not, please come to YouTube, watch an episode or two, get us hours on there. It helps our algorithms.
Yeah.
Like us, although we have more people liking us now. I don't know if I told you that. No, so like us on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, please. It gets us algorithms.
There's the QR code.
And Allison moved her head so that if you are on YouTube, you can see the QR code. If you hold up your camera on your mobile device, it'll name your browser or the site that this is connected to, which is called Hi Hello, and you tap on that, and it will give you the links to all of our stuff.
Yeah.
But you can also just go yourself, and you can find our page on Facebook and our YouTube channel, and where else are we? Our website.
Our website.
It's all called How Preschool Teachers Do It.
Yeah.
Okay, folks. I hope you go and think about all this, and we'll catch you next time on the podcast.
Bye, peeps.
Bye, peeps.